Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening, or good morning or afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this. This is the 45th episode of hopefully many episodes of Bard Advice, a D&D slash TTRPG slash nerd culture slash sometimes sports advice podcast where I, Charles Chaz Yazik, the DM, the Bard, however you may know me, do my best to answer questions that are submitted. At the top of the hour, we like to remind everyone, if you do want to submit questions to the show, please do so at bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. If you'd like to get some merchandise, you can do so by going to manshorts.com. And if you'd like to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, notably my third album, Organized Lightning, you can contribute directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzick. Also, at the top of the show, we like to thank all of our patrons, our members, subscribers. Please remember to like the video. It's good for the algorithm. Comment, subscribe, share, and rate the podcast on your respective platforms. If you've been enjoying it, let them know because it's good for the algorithm. Hello, everyone, all of the same friends that we see. Happy Friday. Hope everybody is doing well. Also, here at the top, we would like to give a little love to our sponsor this week, which is World Anvil. Everybody knows everybody loves and knows World Anvil. If you don't know, World Anvil is an online set of world-building tools for writers and game masters. With it, you can create wiki-like articles and cross-reference them. You can make interactive maps, historical timelines, family trees, bloodlines, character sheets, and more. They've also recently added world meta tools, which can help you keep your project on track and grow your setting seamlessly. World Anvil's organizational capability is so advanced that it doubles as a novel writing software. They're a great team of people. They've been a friend and sponsor of ours for years. So if you or someone you know is looking for a way to build, design, or showcase your world with the TTRPG community, you need to check out World Anvil. You can click the link in the description of this video or go to worldanvil.com, and if you use the promo code MANSHORTS, you can get 40% off any of the annual memberships. So thank you to World Anvil for sponsoring this episode as well as our episode this week. All right. What else do we have to say? You saw your YouTube algorithm's very touchy. You were getting man shorts and then all of a sudden stopped getting notifications. Yeah, you're probably not alone there. That seems to have happened lately. I think that a lot of it has to do with their focusing a lot of their energy into the shorts algorithm, so who knows? Also, quickly, before we get into any questions, because we do have a good amount of questions this evening, I do have a little art corner. I didn't initially plan to have one, but then earlier I was watching this with my wife and thought that I would just throw it up there for it. So for art corner, I'd like to recommend to anybody that has Netflix and likes stand-up comedy, the Pete Holmes special, I Am Not For Everyone. It's hilarious. I think that guy's really funny. He's really goofy, kind of weird. And you know, his special is aptly named. I can see what he means by that. But if you like stand-up comedy, I'd recommend giving it a try because I think it's pretty hysterical. And I tend to find that guy pretty funny whenever I see him pop up on like TikTok or something. Alrighty. You make a note to share your stuff on more platforms. Oh, yeah, well, I appreciate that, Duncan. Thank you. It's much appreciated. Any of that stuff helps. But, you know, at the end of the day, algorithm is algorithm. Grandson's first birthday today. Well, congratulations from your friendly neighborhood Grandpa Sorcerer. That's nice to hear. All right, so as I said, we do have a good amount of questions tonight. Good amount meaning more than I think we've had in quite a while. We've got 7 this evening, so I'm confident that we'll be able to get through them, and then we can do a little chat. This is kind of like our Halloween episode, as it were, I guess, but we'll just see how it goes. According to the list of names, our first question of the evening is from Lars. So let's get into it. Lars asks, "Hey Chaz, this is more of a prompt than a question, but I wanted to hear more of your thoughts on D&D supplements. Specifically, I know Wizards of the Coast is dropping the Book of Many Things at the end of this month, and I'm wondering if you think it's worth it. Seems one can get more value in a post-OGL world since we've entered a new era of indie TTRPG companies and Kickstarters for new systems. Thoughts? Thanks. Well, thank you for the question, Lars. I will say I don't know too much about the Book of Many Things. I did look into it a little bit, so we can talk about that. It's supposed to be coming out, I guess, on Halloween, right? Or you're able to pre-order it now on Beyond. And this seems to be what it comes with. So it's like a book. It's got some stuff in it. You know, cards, which I guess they've added on to the original 22 and made it a deck of 66. I don't know why they wouldn't just do it in a deck of 100, but whatever. And then, I don't know, something else. I'm sure that there's other selling points to it. But, you know, as to whether or not the value is there, I think a lot of times what you're getting is, especially these days, I think, with like prints, like you're essentially just paying for the art. I was just talking to my brother-in-law about this. Like, I don't know how much content is in there, but it seems to me like most of that cost, you would think, theoretically, would be to pay artists. But who knows? I mean, $100 seems like a lot. Based on what it seems like it has in it, I would say like $35. You know? Especially like with the digital stuff these days, it's like, come on. I mean, digital, how much does digital even cost somebody to make? Obviously, like when you're talking about labor when it comes to the artists themselves, right? And then the writers, and I'm well aware of all of that. But I'm talking about like, when you're talking about distribution, what is it? What does digital distribution really even cost? Server space, pretty much. And I understand like printing the physical stuff, but I don't know. To your point about other stuff, you know, far be it from me to tell somebody how to spend their money. But I do think that there's probably more value inherently in contributing to something like one of those Kickstarters. Like, you know, the one that the D&D Shorts Will just did, Ryoko's Guide to the Yokai Realms. I think there's a lot more value in spending $100 on something like that. And, you know, I don't know what the tiers are and how it works or whatever, but, you know, I would imagine that something like that would get you at least whatever the thing is, and then maybe more. So not only that, but, you know, there's a little bit more community to it and feeling like you're supporting or promoting an independent artist as opposed to, you know, a corporate machine. I don't know. What do you think, chat? What do you think about... Seems ridiculously overpriced. Yeah, I tend to agree. Didn't WotC already release the Deck of Many Things and is just a re-release? Probably. Not a huge fan of the new Wizards of the Coast written material, but the older D&D back catalog is a treasure trove, especially if you're willing to convert from AD&D or 3 to 5e. Yeah, that's true. Oh, man. I wonder why... Man, maybe we should just take all the old 3-5 books and just convert them into 5e. Oh, yes, Chris, I can't either. I can't speak too much in detail to that, like when that's going to happen as far as the Florida supplement thing, but things are looking good. The talks on that have been positive, so hopefully next year. I wonder how much the Tome of +1 Sword is going to be. A lot of information can be stored in the cloud, so not even much space used by personal PCs and other devices. Yeah, it does seem a bit, it seems a bit egregious to say in 2023, here's a book, it's $100. That seems a lot. Where, as opposed to, like you mentioned, like a Kickstarter or any of these other kind of crowdfunding sites that these indie RPG, TTRPG makers are making, or using rather, to make their stuff. Yeah, there's probably a lot more value in that. Not only for the product that you're getting, right, because it's likely made with more love, but you also, the process, I think, of, you know, spending your money and feeling better about where you're spending your money. So I wouldn't tell you where to spend it. I would just say, in my experience, I think that you'd probably feel a lot better, and you would feel a lot better if you knew that your money was going kind of back into the community at that point, right? Because guys like Will, a guy like Will is not a dude who's like in it to just, you know, make money for shareholders. A guy like Will is part of the community. So, you know, inherently, it's like that's why all the Critical Role stuff is so good, and why like Baldur's Gate 3 is good. It's because it's like the community's involved. That's the big problem that we found at the beginning of this year with this whole OGL nonsense, is that it's like, oh, dude, all these people up at the top have no idea what's going on because they're not part of the community. And they don't have any incentive to care about the community. Their job is to bring profit to their shareholders for Hasbro. So I say go independent when and if you can, every time. I think you get more for it. So, but that's just like my opinion. So thank you for the question, Lars. Next one we've got here. Oh, wow. I actually have some notes here that I wrote that I didn't say. Interesting. Well, let's just put this out here since I took the time to write it down. Good content is more accessible and more affordable than ever before. That's true. Kickstarter and similar crowdfunding websites have allowed independent creators to produce content that otherwise wouldn't have existed even 10 years ago, let alone 20. And again, this is about distribution, right? In 2003, yeah, I mean, you can make your own TTRPG, but like, good luck. Fast forward 20 years and it's like, yeah, you can make your own RPG. Like, tons of people are doing that, actually. There was a time when Wizards was all there was. Perhaps we should take advantage of the fact that that's no longer the case. So I think that's pretty succinct. Oh, well, thank you for stopping by, Shadley. Have a good evening. Your husband was one of the beta testers for BG3. He said he's been enjoying the game. I'm not a gamer, so you have no opinion. It's great. I've really liked it a lot. You could tell that it was made by people who love the game, play the game. So I think that's a good thing. People are getting bored with WotC, so why not create your own? No doubt. We're in the era, I think we've talked about that too on this podcast before, like we're in the era of creating that content, so do it. Get it done. What is this? Is this an important? Whoa. Okay. That was a crazy thing to see. All right, so the next question we have is from Keith. And Keith asks, longtime DM here from the 335 era. Nice. Big fan of the channel. I also work in sales. I'm emailing you because one of my bosses has asked me to plan a 4 to 5 hour one-shot to play with the sales floor as a kind of team building exercise. Including our department manager, I'd be running a party of 8 total. Whoa. What advice do you have for running a corporate sanctioned D&D one-shot for a large party of inexperienced salespeople? Anything helps. Okay, well, my first advice right off the bat would be limit the bards. Because, oh man, 8 bards, you're not going to have fun. So in that, I would say, and it's actually the first note that I put down, use pre-made characters for sure. Don't make it a thing, because I mean 4 to 5 hours with 8 people, you're going to spend the whole time building characters. So have pre-built characters, and you know, spread the bard out, because you know, maybe 2 at the most, probably just 1. You know, what would be cool is if you could spread it as thin as possible. I mean, if you've got 8 players, that's a little bit of everything. So, but I said keep it simple. Definitely use pre-made characters. Oh, also use 5e, which you're probably not going to want to hear, but it's true. Yeah, I know you said that you were from the 335 era. I don't know if you have experience with 5e, if you're currently still playing and that's the iteration that you've played before, but no shot you're going to be able to teach people 3.5 in 4 or 5 hours to play any kind of, like, there's just no way. 5e is way more plug and play. So I would do 5e, and I would do pre-made characters, and you might even like not even want to write your own story. You might want to just find like a pre-written one shot, like a holiday one shot or something. Yikes, don't do it without a major pay hike. Yeah, that's true. Are you getting a raise for this? Is this overtime? Limit the bards is pretty solid advice outside of context, it seems. I guess that's true. Yeah, that's pretty good advice just in general. I would roll a lot of shewers. I would use roll of shewers. Oh, and remember you're at work. I think that's an important thing too, because, like, you know, things can get goofy and people can get weird and say weird stuff. So just keep in mind of, where you are. I also said, like, I made a note for myself to, like, you could find a pre-written one. As far as a one shot, you could put one together. I also thought it might be fun to, like, include stuff about the office in the one shot. Again, you gotta walk a little bit. You gotta toe the line a little bit with that stuff, because you don't want to do anything that's, like, offensive or upset anyone. But if there's like an internal office joke, or even more importantly, if there's like an internal sales joke, like maybe even if you're like taking kind of like funny jabs at other departments or whatever it is, whatever the, I guess that what I'm trying to say is, whatever dynamic you have among these other people that you work with in the office, not necessarily try and completely replicate it, but just keep it in mind when building the stuff. So what you could do is kind of combine the ideas of finding an existing and plugging it in. So, like, I'm sure that you could easily online find a cool Halloween or holiday. I don't know when you're planning on doing this, but you could make it like themed for the holidays if you wanted to, or even just like any kind of random one shot. And then going through it, and as a forever DM, I'm sure that you'd be adept at this. You could just kind of go through it and kind of tweak it and make it a little different for, your specific group that you've got going. And so, yeah, that's my advice. I mean, the fact that if they're salespeople, they'll actually probably be able to pick up on stuff pretty quickly. But keeping it simple, I think, is the most important thing you can do there. Not sure it's an issue nowadays, but also make sure there's no problem with the players about magic and religion. Oh, yeah, that's a good point, too. To be fair, that kind of stuff should probably be talked about before you even get to that place. So, before you even have the session, that should be talked about. Maybe you could put together like a simple little email or something to send out to people, just kind of give everybody I don't know, a level of expectation, maybe, just so they kind of know what they're getting into. Give people the kind of opportunity to be like, oh, I don't want to partake in that because, magic's the devil or whatever. Use the layout of your office as the dungeon layout. Yeah, for sure. That's something you could do. Like, use the things that you're all already connected on in the game. That'll help with the team building. Oh, and while I didn't write it down, it just occurred to me, puzzles. Puzzles more so than combat. Obviously, like, have combat because that's fun. It's a majorly fun part of the game. It's a majorly fun part of D&D. But if the entire purpose of this thing is team building exercise, puzzles is a great thing for that. Even better if you can find puzzles or build puzzles that require different things from different members. I'm going to get into talking about that in the next question that we have. But, giving everybody the opportunity to contribute. And also in positions where they're all kind of needed. Reminds me of the Adventure Time episode in Season 1 with the businessman who washed out. Convert the Crimson Permanent Assurance to D&D. Rule 1, Rule of Cool, Story Over System. Better than a TTRPG. How about a LARP session? Yeah, that's so funny that you say that, because I go into that a little bit in the next question. But yeah, I think that I think there's stuff in there for you, Keith. Keeping it simple, pre-made characters. 5e is a much easier system than 3.5. Maybe send out a little email beforehand, just to kind of like set the expectations of where everybody is. I like the idea of pre-made characters with some of their own characteristics built in if you know them well. That's true. Yeah, you could also, you could always, I think actually my cousin has done this for us before, but where there's a pre-made character, but some things are missing that you kind of pick yourself, like, your alignment and or like the weapon you use. So you could so that kind of gives them a little agency as for what they want their character to be, but it also gives you a little control so that they're not all bards, because you don't want all bards. A fulfillment campaign where a team has to deliver a series of packages that have been sold by their company and twists that complicate delivery that the sales department failed to mention. 10 plus now have LARP hurts more as you get older, I imagine. I imagine so. I've never actually done LARPing. That's one of those things where it's like, I don't know, maybe in another life I would have done it. Keep classes basic so everyone gets to do something good and push party work together. Yeah, for sure. Puzzles, anything where, combat, like in combat, if you can break up the types of enemies that they're fighting such that, certain players are going to have advantages on certain enemies. So just kind of keep that in mind in terms of giving everybody kind of a chance not only to shine, but also just like to utilize their character to the best of their ability to helping the party. Don't try to do or be everything with a character. Okay. So yeah, I think you got something in there, Keith. Thank you for the question. We've got to keep rolling. We got some more questions. This next question is from Jen. And Jen asks, "Hey Chaz, hope you and the rest of the Man Shorts crew are enjoying the cooler weather. It may have been, kinda. It may have been last week or the week before, but I've heard you say you're surprised more D&D/TTRPG fans aren't sports fans, and vice versa." Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, actually. My hubby and I both love D&D, and he's a sports fan. He grew up playing them. Can you talk a little more about similarities between sports and fantasy TTRPGs? Thank you so much. Well, thank you for the question, Jen. I would be delighted to talk about this because it's something that I just don't understand. As someone who is a fan of both, I just don't understand. Now, I, in fact, was a sports fan before a D&D fan, but that's kind of because I grew up in a house of sports fans. My mom's a huge football fan. My whole family's football fans. So I kind of grew up with football in the house. And then also, I was like 8 in the Jordan era. When Jordan was like three-peating twice, I was like in elementary school. So, I got hooked into basketball because of that. I didn't play or find D&D until way later, until I was like 18. But all that's to say, this is what I wrote about it. I took time to think about this and write about it because I really believe this. And I think that I think that people should take note. So this is what it is, okay? This is why they're the same thing. The collective goal in D&D is whatever the goal is, right? I mean, we all know as players that the real goal of D&D is have fun, yada, yada, yada. But your goal in the campaign is whatever the goal in the campaign is. So retrieve the magic item, get the gold, save the world, all that stuff. In pursuit of this common goal, each character brings their own skill set and their own personality to their role. So, for example, the bard may not be very strong, so they rely on their charisma. Our barbarian is a great ally in combat, but they're not really helpful if they've got intelligence as their dump stat and you need somebody to do like a history check. Similarly, in sports, the goal is to win. Win the game, win the title, win the championship. And in pursuit of this common goal, each player brings their own skill set and their own personality to the role. In basketball, a point guard might not be very tall, so they can't effectively dunk, but because of their size, they're faster, they can pass more effectively. Compared to somebody like Shaq, who was scary dominant in the paint, like right under the basket, but if he had to shoot from any kind of distance, it's not that great. So the concept of whatever's going on is all the same. And then the only difference with sports is that they're real people, but they're still kind of characters. It's still very much like, it's just a modern gladiatorial arena, right? So other obvious similarities beyond just like the heroes and villain characters, players, are the moments, these explosive moments. And, you might say, well, in D&D, I was the one that did it. I wasn't just like watching someone do it, but it's like technically in D&D, your character did it. Like if you wanted to be the one to really do it, you'd probably be into LARPing. So it is kind of the same thing where And I find a lot of similarities in people that I know that are into sports but not into D&D, and then people that are into D&D and not into sports, where I'll see them do something or say something about whatever the thing is. Like, I'll see a sports fan say something about a player, and it's like, bro, how do you not like D&D? And then same thing with D&D. Like, I'll hear people talk about a particular thing that happened, and it's like, this is sports. This is somebody dunking on somebody in sports. You know, like, if you, like, a critical hit is like a dunk. It's the same kind of thing. So those, I think, are the similarities between the two. You know, obviously, like the party, you know, Ron mentioned in chat, party equals team. It is very much the same thing. Like, all of the pieces need to kind of be working together. Like we were just talking about with the sales one shot. Like, you need everybody to kind of contribute, and they kind of contribute their own thing. They're not all the same. You know, when you look at like a basketball team, I think is an easier example because it's smaller, five players apiece. But, you know, they all do something different. And as a result, their skills are different. Watching sports is like playing D&D without all the thinking. Yeah, exactly. Oh, man, exactly. And so, like, instead of in D&D, see, that one of the things I like about basketball, too, is that, like, because there are less players, they're easier to keep up with all of them. And so I'm not a team guy. I think I talked about that before. Since we don't have a team here, I'm not really a team guy. I'm more of a player guy. And I love to follow the players and just, like, see the lore. And I would say to anybody that is into sports and wants to get into D&D, or rather, anybody that's into D&D that is considering getting into sports, if you watched a couple of documentaries, like 30 for 30s, like if you watched like the 30 for 30 on the Detroit Bad Boy Pistons of 1988 and 1989, you would become a basketball fan. 100%. If you're not already a fan of basketball, watching that documentary would make you become a basketball fan. And if you're a sports fan, you just got to play a game. You just got to play a game of D&D. Play a one-shot, you're going to want to play. You're going to want to keep doing it. So, you know, it's a weird Venn diagram because it's like it's like they're ignoring each other, and it's like you guys all like the same stuff. Like, dude, and in particular when it gets to be like fantasy football, you know, like I play the DraftKings thing on my phone, whatever, $5 every now and then. I just like play a couple of those things just for fun. And that's what you're doing. You're building a D&D party, but it's like a fantasy, you know, you're like, okay, this is who I want my team to be. Wonder what that might look like with actual like D&D players. Been watching since the first bardadvice video, but not always lucky enough to watch live. Oh, well, thank you for joining. Glad that you're here. I'm from Toronto. Welcome. Friends from the Great White North. Dennis Rodman is a wild-shaped druid. Dennis Rodman is an incredible character. What a great example of a player who is like a character. Yeah. Watch any kind of documentary about Dennis Rodman. You'll see what I'm talking about when it comes to them being similar to fantasy TTRPGs. All right. Let's keep rolling. We got more questions. Thank you for the question, Jen. Hopefully that answered it. This next question, according to the list of names, is from Wayne. And Wayne asks, Dear Bard, I'm in a pickle. Last session, my group was investigating the basement lab of one of our campaign's BBEGs. While doing this, my DM explained in private that my character found a cursed item. A good Arcana check, 18, revealed it's a piece of rune with properties similar to the One Ring. I can't turn invisible, but I am quite obsessively drawn to its power and need to make occasional will saves to avoid psychic damage. Oh man, this sounds like something that would totally have happened to me. This will continue until I can find someone who can tell me more about it. He also gave me the option of whether or not I tell the rest of the party, warning that their knowledge of the rune's existence may result in their being drawn to it as well, and or being subjected to the constant will saves and damage. I'm not sure what to do. I have the best, that's supposed to be I have the best int, so I'm not sure the benefit of telling them. What do you think? Well, thank you for the question, Wayne. That is indeed a pickle. Funny, I'm glad that you mentioned that you had the highest int, because when I was originally reading through your question, that was the first thing that came to my mind was like, okay, well, I mean, maybe the rest of the party can help you kind of carry this, kind of share this weight, i.e. Samwise Gamgee. But you said that you have the best int, so nobody's probably going to be able to. I assume that what you mean by that is like nobody's going to be able to know more about it than you already do in your party. So what's the benefit of getting them involved if the risk, of course, is them like having to deal with the same thing that you're doing? So you got to tell one person and see what happens. Well, I mean, I always feel like especially like in a D&D party, like if you tell one person, everybody's going to probably know. I will say this. Eventually, you're probably going to have to tell them eventually anyway, because I mean, it's only going to happen a couple of times before somebody's like, what's going on? Why are you in pain? It's like in Baldur's Gate 3 with like Gale and Shadowheart and stuff are constantly like, oh gosh, oh no, there's this problem. We got to stop what we're doing because I got a problem. Like, that's annoying to have to deal with. And they're going to probably know that something's going on. But this is what I said. What would your character do? Which I recognize is like an overused answer. But I do think it's a good question to ask, because it's a situation where try not to think of it as you yourself. Try to think of it from the standpoint of your character. So consider things like your character's background, alignment, and their own incentive within the party and plot, right? So like what I mean by that is if you're just like a group of mercenaries who have no real ties to each other than the fact that like you're all here to make some gold, I don't see why you would have any incentive to tell them at all. Unless you wanted them to have to deal with it and fight over it, and, if you wanted to start a problem. Let me see some of the stuff that chat is saying. That one person always tries to kill you. What happens if you put it on? The rune? I don't know. Can you wear it at all? Is it any kind of wearable? It sounds like it's just a piece of something. If you wait to tell people, it could end with everyone in the party fighting each other to gain the item. Yeah, that's true. I mean, the longer that you don't tell anybody, it sounds like the DM isn't going to tell anybody. I mean, they've given you essentially the power as to whether or not to reveal that. So they're probably not gonna. They'll probably just keep occasionally making you do will saves and psychic damage. But take it from somebody who tends to be this person, who has some sort of like secret side plot going on. They notice. The party's going to notice. So in addition to considering your character's alignment, backstory, and incentive within the party, you should consider the character's relationship with the other characters. So like, is there trust there? What's the relationship like? Again, are you guys just like a group of adventurers? Or are you like a family or something? Weigh the potential bad versus the potential good. It's possible that they could help you share the weight of it, but it could also kill somebody. And obviously the DM gave it to the spellcaster for a reason. That's another thing. So these are will saves. So you're making wisdom saves. So maybe with somebody at higher will. Tell the druid. tell the paladin. Find whoever has the highest wisdom would probably be most helpful in you sharing some of it. Give subtle hints for the others to figure it out. They need to know for if or when you fail your save. That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking this whole time about like what the consequences are for the rest of the party, but we got to remember that you're actively dealing with this thing too as your character. So like you could die. I guess there's a possibility that if you don't tell anybody and they don't, you don't come up with something, that you could die. Too bad it's not Baldur's Gate 3 and you could just like right click send to camp, But yeah, I don't know. Is there a way for you? I guess that you would be doing it if there were, or maybe the DM didn't specify. Like, is there a way for you to avoid this type of occasional will damage? Meaning, like, can you wrap it up and throw it in a bag of holding or something, and then like bury it and come back for it or something? I don't know. I mean, that could be really risky, especially because like you don't even really know what it means. It could be really important in the story. Probably if you got it in the BBEG's underground lab, probably pretty important. But sounds like they need to find out more so that they would ask the others in the group. Flash it quickly in front of the rogue and wait for them to try and steal it. Yeah, if you've got any kind of ill will towards the rogue, just like, bro, you wouldn't even have to show the rogue. You could just like mention it, like, oh yeah, I got this cool thing. You get robbed that night. The druid, paladin, or cleric, and maybe you can give each other advantage to checks by helping each other. Oh, that's a good call, Avram. Yeah, if you got like a cleric or a pally, definitely get with them. I think this is what it is. Like, it's going to come to light eventually, one way or the other, right? And so you ultimately control that destiny. I would think about all the things that I've talked about: alignment, backstory, incentive, relationship with the other characters, trust, etc. Once you've kind of crunched all of that data in your own head, if you do decide that you want to reveal it to them, I would start with somebody in the party that has a good wisdom and or something helpful where you can kind of help each other with the checks or maybe try and figure it out. So there's no chance the mad scientist wizard won't kill you for it. Yeah, you don't even need to mention it if the rogue's on his game and goes through the party's. That's true. Goes through the party's belongings during rest. Yeah, the rogue might already be on top of it. It's actually a good thing for a pirate to have pointed out because, again, what's that? Isn't that a Rush song? If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. If you don't say anything, that could happen. The rogue could just be roguing, just doing rogue stuff, and then whoops, now they're involved in this, and now the party knows you didn't tell them about it. So now, if there was any trust there, I think you don't want to do anything to like jeopardize your situation. Are clerics good to remove curses? That's true. Don't clerics have like a spell that's it'll come to me. Or somebody will say it in chat. There's an actual spell that I think it gets rid of like most all curses and yeah, but the thing is like, would that ability be limited to them removing the curse from the person instead of the item itself? I don't know. It's a question for the DM. I don't know. I don't know if I would want to be you in this situation, Wayne, but hopefully you found an answer in there somewhere. Well, thank you for joining this evening, Harissa. Hope you have a good one. And called remove. Oh, it's just called remove curse. How convenient. Well, there you go. So yeah, if you've got a cleric, hit them up for sure. But yeah, I don't think it works on cursed items, only cursed people. And you technically aren't cursed, right? The item is. So I don't know. I would tell somebody and just kind of take it from there. Maybe somebody has some sort of a maybe somebody has something that you don't even know about where it's like, oh, actually my character I'm resistant to those kind of things, so I can carry it with no damage at all. And also, you don't know, something else is somebody who tends to have like a secret plot going on with the DM. You don't know what the DM has going on with other players. The DM could have just done that to every player just to see what's going to happen. So, I mean, that could be part of it too. But I think just trying to do right by your character and what your character would do based on their alignment and relationship to the party and the campaign is usually the best way to go if you can do that. So, best of luck to you, Wayne. Thank you for the question. All right. List of names says that the next question is from Amanda. So we'll get into that. Oh, I'm excited for this too because we can talk about animo. But Amanda asks, I've never been into anime and have never watched any of it. I've been thinking about branching out and watching one and see what I've been missing. Can you suggest one that would be a good intro to the genre? Well, thank you for the question, Amanda. I can indeed recommend several because I am quite the anime fan myself. Now, something I'll say about anime, and it depends on how you want to watch it, right? Sub or dub, I highly recommend sub, but there are people that like to watch dub. There are pros and cons to it. I am a believer that a big part of the pacing of the storytelling, I believe that the Japanese language is kind of critical for. I mean, it was written, the genre was designed in that language. So I think that sometimes, not always, but sometimes the English dub can make it kind of goofy, make it kind of silly. But the drawback to that is if you watch sub, you kind of have to watch it. And what I mean by that is you have to actively watch because you're reading, right? I mean, unless you speak Japanese, you don't know what they're saying unless you're reading it. So you kind of have to actively watch, which I'm the kind of person that likes to multitask. I'm the kind of person that likes to consume multiple things like content at once. So like I'm totally a listen in the background type person. Almost always I have a podcast or like a sports show or something running in the background while I'm working. So if you're wanting something like that's like kind of in the background, then probably watch dub, but I would recommend actively watching with sub. That said, my recommendations for just getting into the genre would be Demon Slayer. Death Note's only 37 episodes, and Death Note's cool, but Demon Slayer is just, it's beautiful. It's so good. Some others that I thought that I would recommend to you as someone who likes D&D are Shield Hero, which is a Shield Hero is an isekai. So essentially what an isekai genre is in anime is being transported to a fantasy world. In Shield Hero, this dude gets transported to another world where he is the Shield Hero. Essentially, there's this fantasy realm where, there are 4 legendary heroes. It's like, I think it's a sword hero, a spear hero, a bow hero, and a shield hero. And in this fantasy realm, the powers that be or whatever pray to the powers that be or whatever, and these heroes arrive. And so he's just like this regular dude that gets sucked into this world and becomes the shield hero. Another isekai that's similar to that is That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. That's a really good anime. It's about a dude who just gets transported into a world, and it's what it sounds like. He gets reincarnated as slime, and as such, he continues to like level up and gain abilities and interact with all of these different types of fantasy elements like dwarves and elves and oni and stuff. It's really cool. My Hero Academia is a good one. Cowboy Bebop's a good one. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is good. Let's see what some of the people in chat are saying. Demon King. Oh, yeah, Demon King is crazy. Demon King's so funny just because it's like Flex City. It's just like, I'm going to do whatever I want. Full Metal Alchemist, the original DBZ. Honestly, I would recommend, what is the newer one? What is, people in chat, what is the DBZ where they released it and it was like shortened? Was that Kai? Where they essentially it was essentially a re-release of DBZ, but just with like a bunch of extra stuff cut out. So it was like more boom, 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 boom to the point. Is it Super? No, well, DBZ Abridged is a different thing. although I recommend that too. Kai, okay, it was Kai. No, it's Kia. I don't know. My son moved out and lives near you now because he's afraid of the lions. Neat that Chaz has so many TO fans, but not surprised because he's very Canuck-like. Yeah, dude, I feel like in another world I would have lived in Canada for sure. I'd have been Canadian. I've always gotten along with Canadians. Key is a remake of the Cell Saga. Ah. For a new person, what are some of your slang sub-dub? Oh, okay. Sorry. So there are two essentially ways to watch Dragon Ball to watch anime. There's sub or subtitled, which is to say that the audio that's being spoken is Japanese and it is English subtitles. So if you're somebody who doesn't speak Japanese, then you need to actively watch by reading. Versus dub, which is where they dub the audio with English. So they take the existing content, which was originally made in Japanese, and then they dub it with English voice actors or English-speaking voice actors. And so sometimes, in my estimation, sometimes things can get lost, not only in translation, but also just in general feel. Like, oh, dude, the other day I was somewhere, and this dude was like, we were talking about One Piece, and he was like asking about like if the One Piece live action was good, and he was like, oh, yeah, man, because I just can't stand that guy Luffy. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, what? How do you not love Luffy? And then he was like, well, actually people have told me that it's because I watched the dub. And it's like, oh yeah. See, I can't speak to that. That's like that time I saw the trailer for the Demon Slayer movie with the English dub. No. No. Just watch it. Just watch it, sub. Just watch it the way that it was made and it's supposed to be. Like I so believe in that as to like the Japanese language and the pacing and stuff that like my idea if I ever produce an anime would be such to write it in English, have it translated into Japanese, produced in Japanese, and then dubbed from there. So it would be like a 4-part process, but Dragon Ball is how my son. Dragon Ball is good too, and honestly, I think Dragon Ball is better than Dragon Ball Z. Just saying. I think Dragon Ball is better than Dragon Ball Z. Oh, and Bakino is one of my favorite animes. That's a really, really good one, and it's short. I think it's only like 12 episodes, 14 episodes. Bakino, Baccanno, I think. And then Berserk. Berserk is good, but not the movies. Try and find the original anime. But I think that gives you some place to start. Start with Demon Slayer, and or like one of those ones like Shield Hero or That Time I Got Reincarnated by a Slime. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. And Dr. Stone's another good one too. It's funny once you hear Luffy speaking in his Japanese acting voice, you can't hear the dub version the same again. Yeah, I've always watched One Piece sub. I've always watched all anime sub, except of course, obviously when I was a kid watching DBZ on Cartoon Network and stuff, that was dubbed. But I've always watched sub if I can help it. Please remember these are almost all shonen. There are other types of anime. That's true. That's true. Spy Family is a really good anime. Actually, start with Spy Family. Because there's not many episodes, and it's a pretty light anime in the sense of, like, there's not a whole lot of, like, supernatural stuff going on. Spy Family's really good. There's always Cars Adapters, a Monster Rancher, Modified Flying Carpet. Is it wrong to pick up chicks in a dungeon? Oh, and Goblin Slayer. Goblin Slayer is really cool too. Yeah, any of those I think you'll enjoy. And anime is awesome. I think that like once you start watching and like find one that you like and get into it a little bit, you're going to want to get into more. All right. So thank you for the question, Amanda. I hope you found one in there that you can start with and enjoy. I really do think it's Demon Slayer. I keep coming back to that, but it's just like, oh, the animation is so beautiful and the story is so good, and it's not terribly dense. Like I would never tell you to start at One Piece because that anime has 1,000 episodes. But I think that there's like 30 of Demon Slayer, like even including like even including the movie, the Mugen Train movie. It's not much. Oh, well, thank you so much for the donation. Thank you for all the suggestions. I've gotten a list written down now, and I'm excited to try it out. Heck yeah. Let's go. All right. So, moving on, we have 2 more questions. Yeah, 2 more. And this next one, according to the list, whoa, where did my list of names go? It got closed. Is from Thomas. All right, let's get in here. Thomas asks, what advice do you have for a stealthy rogue playing in a group with 3 players who all wear heavy armor? Paladin, barbarian, fighter. It's kind of hard to sneak up on people with the rest of the party clanging around. Any ideas? Well, thanks for the question, Thomas. Yeah, that's got to be tough, being the rogue, trying to be sneaky, super sneaky, and everybody's just kind of like smashing around. So I wrote some notes on this. I think you can use their loudness to your advantage, or rather you should try to. Right? Like, what a perfect distraction. They're making noise already. They're already like loud and causing a ruckus already. So I think that you can use that. You probably would need to kind of split yourself from the party a little bit. Maybe it could be a scenario where you kind of run scout a little bit, or maybe you even are following behind a little bit, right? So you kind of let them go, and then that way, as a result, you're kind of, I mean, it puts you in a bit of a precarious scenario, because if you were to ever, if the DM just wanted to like kidnap you or something, that could happen. But if you're like, I don't know, 50 feet or 100 feet behind them as they're going somewhere, then even if they were to trigger an encounter, like trigger a combat, you would still be out of initiative, right? You would still have the opportunity to like hide and maybe position yourself in such a way that you can use the stealth to your benefit. So, because remember, stealth is not just jumping the gun, right? Like it's not always about like making, seeing them before they see you. Sometimes, like in the thing that I just mentioned, they don't even know that you're there because they're busy focused on your loud teammates. You need to go first or go last by large margins. Sneak past, let them aggro, then double back for a backstab. Say you're going to scout ahead, but then turn around and just follow. An enchantment that makes heavy armor silent. Oh, wow. That's insane. Move silently plus 10 stealth. I also said you might, allow them to run interference by just existing, right? They're going to be doing their thing and make a noise as it goes. Also, ranged fighting you might consider investing in, because I've talked about this, I think, on the pod. This happened to be in the Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough that I'm playing through, where I'm the Dragonborn fighter, ranger, warlock. Early game, I was more melee, was more like in the fray, but it didn't really work that well because, it's a party of 4. Justin's a Sork, but Cody and Ryan are respectively barbarian and paladin. So, 3 melee trying to get in there, and it's not just about them stealing my kills. Sometimes I steal their kills. It's like you want to try and kind of spread it out. So I kind of pivoted a bit and made my guy more of a ranged fighter, crossbows, spell casting. And so as a result, there's less of an issue there. And if you combine those concepts with either scouting ahead a little bit to, get the jump on somebody, or being behind a little bit, and the fact that you're ranged, it's a pretty killer combo. There are boots that even make wearing heavy armor silent. Boots of striding and sprinting. Yeah, I doubt. I'm just gonna let you know. I doubt that the DM is gonna just allow the three heavily armored paladin, barbarian, and fighter to like make their heavy armor silent for the sake of being a silent group. I think that you're better off trying to work around it in the ways that I suggested. But hey, you never know, you never get unless you ask. So it might be worth a Hail Mary to just be like, hey, can we give all of these guys quiet shoes so we can all sneak around? Now, the DM might still allow that and have them roll for it, in which case, I don't know if any of them are trained in or can even do very well with it. And so as a result, it might end up being more of a hindrance than a help because, while they were trying to remain completely silent, they rolled a nat 1 and now they've alerted the entire city guard to your presence. As opposed to maybe one or two guards might have heard them when you were coming around the corner, So, law of equal exchange and all that. Didn't we talk about Full Metal earlier? Well, the barb shouldn't be wearing armor. That doesn't mean he can't be silent. Yeah, I guess that's true. That is I didn't even consider that. What's the barbarian doing wearing armor? Maybe it's a certain kind of build. I don't know. But yeah, I think there's something in there for you, Thomas. Using their loudness to your advantage and using it as a distraction, etc. And before and behind, you don't have to be with them all the time. In fact, it's probably to your benefit that you're not with them. The issue with making everyone stealthy is that the DM will probably adjust to make it harder to sneak. And assuming everyone wants to sneak, that'll be every mission. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if you make it clear to the DM, like, hey, what we're trying to do is all sneak around, DM's going to be like, oh, okay. And then they're going to adjust their story accordingly and their encounters and enemies accordingly. So, you've been trying to sneak around, but the clap of your teammates is just too dummy thick. Yeah. Dummy thick teammates. Barbarian disguise wearing armor. Oh, yeah, maybe it's a disguise. Maybe it's disguises. All right. We've got one more question, and then we can do a little chat, I suppose. But this last question is from Drew, and I wanted to get it in here because it is Halloween, and we are in the height of spooky season. Halloween's right around the corner. So, Drew asks, as Halloween approaches, I'm curious about your opinions on ghosts, spirits, or apparitions. Do you consider yourself to be someone who believes in that sort of thing? Have a safe and spooky holiday. Thank you for the question, Drew, and happy Halloween to you and yours. I will say this, because I'm never the kind of guy to... I try not to take hard stances on stuff, except the fact that Miles Jack wasn't down. But for the most part, I tend to be, I have wiggle room. I kind of live on the fence for a lot of things. So I'm never the kind of person that's going to speak with certainty about that kind of thing. What I will say is I've had my experiences of my own. In my late teens, early 20s, Justin and I and a group of us actually used to ghost hunt relatively frequently. Don't recommend it because in my experience, if you're looking for that kind of thing, you're going to find it. It's kind of like the internet, right? Like you'll find whatever you're looking for. And that is, it can be fun and it can be scary. And I've had scenarios with both. I've had experiences where it was silly and stupid and a waste of time and we just were out there for 4 hours for nothing. And then I've had experiences where it was like, whoa, something's going on. I also know a lot of people personally, friends and family who have had experiences. So I can't say that for certain, like spirits or the other world, it certainly exists, but I mean, probably based on everything I've experienced, I don't think that there's any way that we'll ever really know what it looks like unless any of us ever potentially get to go there at some point in existence, whether that's here or not on a different plane or something. But yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. I can't rule that out. Stuff that I've seen and heard. And now I will say that I do think that, the paranormal world and all of the things surrounding it probably does lend itself to a lot of charlatans or people that want to come in and, make money off of it or take advantage of other people through it. But I can only speak from my personal experiences, and my personal experiences is that, there's definitely, I mean, I said I wasn't going to speak in absolutes, and that said definitely, but I believe that there is some energy that's there. And I don't know what it looks like. Whoa, pirate, what are you doing? I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it is with any kind of certainty. But yeah, I think something's there. And that puts us immediately into chat for Halloween. People need to be open to it, the people who have ever experienced it. Yeah, you definitely have to kind of invite that stuff in. And on the note of not recommending it, it's not always fun, right? If you're going to invite that stuff in, okay. But don't get upset if stuff starts happening or, you feel a certain type of way. We used to go, sometimes we would go to a place like a cemetery or something, and then we would leave our camera equipment and come back and then review the footage. And then other times we would just go to wherever the place was and just hang out for a while at 3 a.m. Which, by the way, dangerous for other reasons, not just the fact that there might be a spooky ghost, but also that there could be somebody that stabs you in real life. So that's a problem. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. I always recommend that if people are trying to tap into that world, that they do so with caution, because you don't know really what you're getting into. Has to do with energies, and you don't know what kind you're putting on or bring home with you. Yeah, for sure. The fact that we don't really know with certainty what's going on with that probably gives us more reason to try and avoid it. Happy Halloween to everyone. Hope it's spooktacular. Hey, Jay Trocious, welcome. Never go somewhere without permission. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel the same way I do about it as shark attacks, It's obviously I would never wish any kind of harm on anybody, but yeah, you're in the ocean. You're in the shark's crib. If he wants to bite you, you're in the ocean. And so I kind of feel that way with the ghost hunting stuff. It's well, what were you doing? Were you looking for it? Were you inviting it? Because, yeah, you can blame everything happens. Just as shadows are moving 2D figures of our 3D selves, ghosts are just the 3D echoes, shadows of 4D beings. Yeah, I can buy into that for sure. I mean, obviously, we're aware of there being multiple dimensions, many of which we can't see. I don't know how they look. And if we, based on anything that we already know about, how dimensions work among other beings, Neil deGrasse Tyson, I think, has the famous, conversation he had about, what an ant's world is versus our world, and, putting the paper on the desk and then stacking it up. When you get to talking about, the 4th, 5th dimension, we don't even know what any of that looks like. So we definitely wouldn't have any ability to exert any kind of control in that realm. Ever have that gut feeling something's wrong? Energies. The biggest risk is people. Wow, what a quote. The biggest risk is people. Put that on my tombstone. That reminds me of a funny anecdote. I think I might have said it before, but Waylon Rigsby, Kyle Rigsby, my childhood friend, and the gentleman who plays Waylon on our videos. One time I found a journal of his at his house, in his old, in his parents' house, his old bedroom at his parents' house. And it was a journal of his. And it was completely empty, save for the very last page. And on the very last page it said, pretty people get away with more. Or maybe prettier people get away with more. And I just thought oh, well, how poetic. There's nothing in this book but for this really beautiful quote. And that's kind of how I feel about the biggest risk is people. Wow, how succinct. What a great way to put it. The NFL is scripted. I don't know about all that. We're going to have a big cat bowl. That's what's happening. Better get ready for it, fellas. Bardads and bardettes. All right, we're going to get out of here. Dang, we're already at an hour. We're past an hour. All right, so thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I hope that everybody's had a good week. We didn't really talk about good things for the week, but I mean, my good thing for the week is that the Jags have a 5-2 record. Baby, let's go. And we're playing the Steelers on Sunday. I think we can get that win. So I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend and Halloween, a safe, fun weekend and Halloween. Just a reminder before we go, please send your emails, your questions, concerns, complaints, compliments, criticisms, critiques to bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. If you want to get some merchandise, you can do so over at manshorts.com. And if you'd like to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, notably my third album, Organized Lightning, which I'm hoping to have out in the next few weeks, you can contribute directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazzik, Yahzick. I will be back here next week, same Bard time, same Bard channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The audio for this podcast will be made available tomorrow, Saturday at 12 p.m. noon Eastern Standard Time. And that's all, folks. That's all we got. Hope everybody has a fantastic week, and we'll see you next time.